Sincere apology for starting late. We wanted to put everything all together and to ensure majority of the participants are online. So today is our first live stream in ICT4D, or I can say part of the general studies. So I think a lot of communication happened earlier, and I believe you all have this document. I believe the team shared this document with you about 2 or 3 days ago. So let me take it straight. This program have 4 components. The first component is the digital literacy, and I believe for all of you that are here, it clearly showed to us that you have gotten some good level of digital literacy. And I'm not talking about computer literacy. For you to get through this application and registration and enrollment process, you must have acquired a very good level of computer literacy. So I believe by going through the content of digital literacy, you have accumulated some good level of understanding of digital literacy. And basically, when we talk about digital literacy, it's nothing more than just ability to use digital media and technology tools to communicate, to interact, to transact, and even to learn, because we are talking about learning. So the first phase of this program, as I've said, is digital literacy, which I believe you have all passed through. And I have to tell a story. We started this program with about 58,000 students or learners. And as it is now, we have about 13,000 now in the ICT4D class. But we'll be adding more as we progress. So that's the first part of this program. The second part of this program is general studies. You know, we don't just want to take you through the technical part of the program. We plan to take you through the basic notion of what ICT can do for Nigeria. And sincerely speaking, ICT4D is not doing much for developing countries. Why? Because ICT can only do wonder when you have a very stable system. And as many of you know, most of our systems are unsuitable. But in some instances, ICT have done wonder where there is nothing. And that's why we talk about disruptive innovation. So for this part of this program, I'm going to take you through 3 modules. And from the plan, we plan to run this every week to take 1 module. But I don't think it's feasible. So I have to talk to the project team to give me opportunity to do this in 4 weeks. So which I believe within the next 3 weeks, we should be able to cover some aspect of the foundational concept or process of what we can do with ICT. So for the first module, which we are already enrolled now, we call it ICT4D, Information and Communication Technologies for Development. And I'm not saying technology only, it's technologies in plural. And the communication is communications. So, and I believe most of you have gone through the content and document I have posted in the classroom. They are very heavy, but I think they are very engaging content. And as you know, the name of this program is Innovation in the Development and Effectiveness. So we are very innovative. We didn't plan to develop new content for this. We leverage the ICT4D content developed at the University of Manchester. I am privileged to be connected with the University of Manchester for the last 13 years. And within the last 13 years, I've taught this course at different levels at our university and at various universities all over the world. At the same time, I've done this ICT4D as a workshop, as a program. Usually, it takes me 5 full days to do this program. Daily, we take around 4 to 5 hours lectures. Then we give out assignment to the student to go through it, and some case studies, some presentations, some manuals that need to be reviewed or documented. So we don't have that luxury of time because this is just an add-on for this program. So I'll take you through the ICT4D, which we have started last week, and we'll go through up until the end of next week. As I'm doing ICT4D, then I will introduce Introduction to Innovation. Because basically what ICT do for us is to support us to innovate. And when I say innovation, I don't just mean innovation only, I mean disruptive innovation. And you have seen how ICT4D accelerated many efforts in Nigeria and beyond. If you look at SDG, yes, we are really too backward behind getting closer to SDG, but ICT is doing a lot around that. And I like telling a real story. Now we are engaging, we are connected through digital technologies. And we are running this program without having to be in a physical location. In reality, our university cannot take more than 10,000 students. But we started with 59,000 students. Now we have about 13. And we have other groups where we have around 1,000. So combined, we have this platform where over 70 students are learning. So this is an innovation. And we have seen how ICT is being used in the banking system, bank verification number, where a lot of corruption, a lot of financial scandal been blocked because of the implementation of these technologies. And we have seen how ICT is being used in the governance process in Nigeria. We have seen fintech from the comfort of your room. You could transfer money, you could place an order, you could attain a highest level of qualification from any university in the world. And if you talk about COVID-19, that really taught all of us, no notice, no prior information, and it just happened. And we just have to go back to our homes, closed down with the fear and whatever. So you can imagine we don't have ICT4D. We don't have ICT tools. The danger of that quagmire will be much, much more bigger. But with ICT tools, we were able to navigate COVID-19 pandemic, and we were able to even build a new life. I think most of us will never be the same. And I tell this story, when we started COVID-19 in our university, only about 10 to 15% of our teachers teach online. But as it is now, practically most of our lecturers are now doing blended learning. They are leveraging these tools. And I like telling the story. Google emailed me not long ago to say, are you guys still running online? I say, no, we are back to campus. But people now see the need for them to use technology. And we have seen how information is being broadcasted about personal hygiene, about cleanliness, about getting things much better during COVID-19. So the power and the potential of ICT4D is massive, but the disruption is also very, very high. You're talking about AI now. ChatGPT is changing learning. Other AI tools, particularly generative AI, is changing the way we live. It's changing the way we do things. It's changing the way we interact with individuals. It's changing the way we even plan our future. If you talk about cloud computing, it's a big deal. If you talk about renewable energy, it's an innovation that is coming through leveraging ICT tools, and even COVID-19 vaccine. We got COVID-19 vaccine because the drug scientists leverage neural network and generative AI. And I mean, the case studies are quite many. If you take agriculture, many countries are moving away from mechanized agriculture into digital farming. You could see as you progress through document and case study, you could see how farmers begin to have much yield from their farms, and you could see how ICT is being used to support farmers to move towards precision and smart agriculture. So the potential is really, really high, and even job creation. As it is now, I always tell my students in the classroom, I say, half of you may never ever go to office and work because work is now remote. You could work in any big company while you are in your bedroom, and you could earn money in dollar, not even in naira. So the potential of ICT4D is really, really massive, but it happens because we use emerging technologies. And when I say emerging technology, I don't just mean just IT emerging technology tools. If you go to Gartner, you go to other authority that talk about emerging technology, you could see the cycle. You know, some emerging technology have just 10 years loop. Some can even go beyond 10 years. If you take AI, AI is not something new that happened last year. It's been there for too many years, but the real application began to stem off recently. So there is a lot of things we need to go through the emerging technologies. And emerging technology is a course I love teaching. Currently in our university, I teach PhD students emerging technologies. And I have students from biology, from different other fields. And when I begin to hear from them, the new things happening from their own discipline is incredible. But we're not talking about just ICT emerging technology, we're talking about the general emerging technologies. DNA sequencing, DNA mapping, artificial meat, I mean, name them, too many of them. Even in ICT, supercomputers, you know, quantum computing, name it. So we'll take 1 week to explore what emerging technologies are, and we may likely have a deep dive to look at the ethical implication of using these emerging technologies. You know, not everything, even water that we take that is colorless, odorless, have an impact in our body. So we may look at their consequences, the opportunity that we may have to really move fast and grab from this technology, and probably we may look at, okay, what if we didn't take these tools as they were? Or maybe we delay taking them up. So we'll go more through that. Then the last course of this general studies is Introduction to Innovation. So innovation is not just invention. Innovation is about scaling up. And you cannot innovate now if you don't use emerging technologies. But and the reality is, if you innovate, you leverage emerging technologies, you could accelerate development. And when I say development, I'm not limiting our discussion to what we have in the SDG. Many other things are out of SDG, but they are linked together. And this is very, very visible, even in our Nigeria's development agenda. We have many of them. We have the Economic Growth and Recovery Plan. ICT is very visible. It's clearly been put together. Now you're talking about Mr. President Renew Agenda. And ICT is very, very visible. And I'm not going to talk much around that, but as we progress, we explore more of that. So I've talked about the first phase of this program, which is the digital literacy. The second phase of this program is general studies. And in summary, we'll be doing 3 things within the next 3 weeks. The first thing is the ICT4D, which we are already in now. And the second part is emerging technologies. And the last one is innovation, introduction to innovation. But I'll be mixing, you know, the two together. You know, I'll be mixing the two together. So, but I believe you all have this document. Go through this. You should be able to have some basic understanding of what we have for this program. So the third part of this program is the technical part, where each one of you will be splitted into your own group of choice. Some of you may go into software engineering, some may go into cybersecurity, some may go into data analytics, some may go into business intelligence, some may go into applied AI, some may go into blockchain. But as we move, these courses have similarities. You may be meeting together, and some of you that have the proximity with our university can come in here and learn in person. But some of you may even decide to do everything online. You don't need to be here, basically, in the university. So as we progress, as I've said, we'll enroll you into Coursera to complement what you are learning with us. And basically, I've said this many times to my colleagues, we are not here to do teaching. We are not teachers, we are tutors, we are facilitators. We are not going to introduce everything to you from scratch. And that's why we have this Google platform. That's why we didn't talk last week. we're taking after when you have had a look at some of the content we practically posted for you online. So I suggest don't wait until when it is lecture hour to engage with us. Basically, from next week is more of interactive. We'll be using interactive teaching tools like Menti to begin to ask questions even before we go on into the classes, because we are leveraging a la carte. A la carte is a digital learning pedagogy where learners are given a lot of content to consume on their own. Then while doing interaction with the facilitators, not teachers, is for them to begin to audit or critique the content given to them by the facilitators. So if you go down, you have done cyber hygiene, you have done a bit of SDG, but I'm going to expand more of the SDG within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Digital citizenship and identity is a big thing that most of us need to really take very serious. We need to be digital citizens. How do we engage with the bulk of content that we have online? How do we even interact with them? How do we screen them out? And that, if you have this key learning embedded into your activities or into your lifestyle or into your philosophy, you can begin to call yourself a digital citizen. And when you are a digital citizen, then you begin to be digital competent, because digital competency is beyond just the usual digital literacy. Digital competency is your ability to use these digital tools to begin to improve your quality of life, to increase your revenue or income, as well as to be more social with people around you, and even the digital tools, because these tools are harvesting much data from you. And if you are not careful, you may lose your privacy. If you lose your privacy, then you have no control over what you do. Because as you all know, Google, Facebook, name it, they are tracking our movement. They know how many hours we slept. They know how many hours we spend at work. They know how many hours or how many minutes we even spend working in an organization where we were employed. So as they begin to have more control over you, then life may not be really good for you. We may run into a miserable pathway. So that's the implication of the digital tools. We cannot take it for granted. We have to take this very, very serious as we progress, because when you say development, it's not just growth. Most of the digital tools support us to grow, but not just to develop, because development is organic. Growth could be artificial. So we want to grow, yes, use this tool to have accelerated growth. As we are getting through accelerated growth, then we begin to develop organically. I think that is the notion of what we plan to do. Then I think I have talked about this. I think you have all this. So I've talked about the ICT4D. And if you look at what I have for the ICT4D, as I've said, is information and communications technology for development, and how these tools aid economic and social development. I didn't just mean economic development, I mean eco-social. As you are growing economically, as your income is growing, your mental health must also decline. The reality now is, and this is a research done in this university by one of our colleagues, Usman, who happened to be one of the facilitators. I and him did the research during his MSc, and we discovered that because of COVID-19, because almost, all our students are online, all our teachers are online, so learning increased, and the experience of learning also increased significantly, and failure reduced. But the problem we have is the mental health of our students decline. Very serious issue. Mental health decline, but learning increase. So we are happy, yes, our students are no longer failing. Their learning experience improved, but their mental health decline because of serious deadline, serious timeline they have to meet up. If you put assignment for your student, they begin to get alerts almost every hour or every minute. So that worsen their mental health. So at the same time, so we have to socially and economically develop. And while doing this course, we should be able to see what are the challenges of Nigeria? If I ask this question, what are the challenges of Nigeria? And from my experience teaching this course, most of the challenges we say are challenges that are not even the real challenges of Nigeria. So, and also, the challenge of Nigeria is different from the challenge of Niger, our neighbor. And we have a global challenges that are constant. But at the same time, we have our own peculiarity. Last semester when I taught this course, I asked my students, what are the major challenges militating the world now? And all what they listed are not part of the key challenges militating the world now. The first, or the major militating challenge of our time is global warming, which most of us don't even know what is global warming. Global warming is a major problem militating our world now. We talk about Boko Haram, we talk about kidnapping, vandalism, and the rest. Basically, it's because of global warming. Because our weather is going too extreme. In the northern part of Nigeria where I came from, farmers are no longer harvesting because water don't come on time and goes on time. In some instances, we have issue of flooding. If farmer put all his effort and towards the end of harvest to bale food, you have a flooding. What happened? Big issue, big problem. So how can we use ICT, these tools, to predict the rainwater we may have this year, if there is even incidents of flooding? Then scientists can begin to put mitigation strategy. But what if we may not have good amount of rainfall this year? How can crop scientists and agri-scientists use AI and digital tools and smart farming tools temper with the seed? I'm not an agriculture, but how do we develop seed that can withstand this pressure? If it's flawed, yes, after 2-3 weeks, then the water go off. Then how can the plants or the seed jump back to normal? I've seen this happening in many parts of the world. Flooding is something that we can mitigate if we use weather system through ICT tools. Then the second problem militating this our world now is AI and digitalization. And I have no fear about this. I have no fear. AI can do wonder for Africa, but we have to do it now. And I have fear that AI can get us to extinct. Already, many futuristics have started putting a timeline for Africa. They say Africa may reach to an extent by maybe 2070 if we didn't take any serious commitment to accelerate or to support the human development process. And that's why we have SDG. If you look at the 17 goals, I will talk about them more as we progress. We are nowhere to get to SDG. With due respect and honesty. But the potential of accelerating effort to get towards the SDG goals is real if you can take it very serious. So if you take the economic growth and recovery plan of Nigeria, looking or moving away from manufacturing or farming system to a more digitalized economy. And that's why in Nigeria we have the ministry responsible for regulating, facilitating, and ease of doing our economic activities online. And I have to be very, very serious here. In Nigeria, we are very, very good in putting framework to support ICT4D. In Nigeria, we practically have almost every policy: blockchain policy, AI policy, digital learning policy, name it. But supporting us to increase our indicators, technology in Nigeria. And when I check, the number of social media users in Nigeria is bigger than the population of South Africa, bigger than the population of even most of the developed countries. Social media, WhatsApp users in Nigeria. Practically in my cycle, almost everyone I know is on WhatsApp, practically. But how does that translate to economic development. How does that correlate with our ranking in the Human Capital Index or in the Human Development Index curated by United Development Program? How are we ranking in the out-of-school league? So how are we ranking in the Innovation Index? Even though we are too connected, we have all this, and I'm going to show you as we progress, in Nigeria we are not doing bad. We are number 4 globally in technical know-how on how to use these tools. But in terms of almost every indicator that have to do with human development, we are not really doing well. So, but how do we begin to bridge this gap? And it's not just only in Nigeria. ICT application into human development is not yielding results to some extent. World Bank in 2011, in their World Development Report, put it there that over 70% of their ICT interventions or projects failed to some extent. And I was really tracking this notion of failure as put together by World Bank, even until recently when I read the most recent World Development Report. And World Bank clearly said that, yes, ICT is everywhere, people are connected, people are no longer marginalized, but although we still have the digital divide, but to some extent the gap is becoming very lean or thin, but the impact of these tools is not being really felt well. And it's not just only in Nigeria. I was reading a magazine, Economist, not long ago, and very provoking article. And they put it that productivity growth year on year in the developed countries as at 1960 was 4%. Annual productivity growth, 4%. But of recent, it's just 1% in the developed countries. I'm talking about developing countries like Nigeria. And the question now is, why are we not making significant development and growth in terms of productivity? Even though now we have AI tools, now we have cloud computing, now we don't need to travel with donkeys, we don't need to travel with horses. We don't need to use lorry to do things because everything is now digital. Because nobody even cares about the physical artifact. People now care about digital whatever, digital money, digital wallet. So why these are not supporting development? I think it's an issue that I think as we progress, we'll begin to answer. Then we may look at the ICT4D infrastructure. What are the foundational infrastructure that support ICT4D? The first foundational infrastructure is power. You cannot do any serious ICT4D intervention or project if you don't have power. What is the power ranking of Nigeria in the Global Power Index? And with due honesty, I said this even last week in the conference that I was invited to talk. There is no reason why Nigerians should stay in darkness because we have solar, particularly from where I came from. There is no reason for us to be in dark. So if you don't have good energy source, and now it's even worse, how can we do digital technology or digital economy if you don't have power? That is the foundational infrastructure. Network is the second infrastructure that we need to have for us to have ICT4D. We all know what happened over the last few weeks. The submarine cable cut, and that really exposed us to the risks of not being ready for the future because we don't have a very serious business continuity put in place. And as we are doing this lecture now, we are relying on 3 internet connections. In the event if anyone failed, then we have another one. And to be honest with you, what we even plan to do is not what we're doing for this class because of the failure of network. So how do we, if everything go online, how do we have a resiliency? I think that's an issue we need to explore. The quality of service of our telecommunication services is not effective. So how do you support women in a rural area that is not educated to have access to digital tools? Because when we talk about sustainable, inclusive development, no one should be left over. Everyone must be carried on board. There is no leftover. Then the next tool, when you have power, you have network, is the solutions. Our enterprise resource planning, the softwares that we have, the API, the portals, the web. Everything is now going online, from teaching to learning to examination to recruitment to empowerment to transaction. Even wedding is now done by Zoom. I've seen many weddings done online. Naming ceremony is now done by Zoom. So how do we begin to reap this benefit of this? We know in Africa, the poverty line is very high. It's very thin, very thick. Learners are not connected to the internet. Teachers are not connected to the internet. Teachers have no access to digital tools. Literacy is also one of the major areas that we need to consider. So, but how do we innovate to move forward, to push forward? Now you're talking about remote sensing. You're talking about smart farming. You're talking about digital health, health informatics, imaging. How do we leverage high computing power to improve quality of life, at the same time improve life expectancy rate? So I'm going to show you more as we progress. So in this course, again, we may look at how does government policy, maybe taxation, maybe deregulation, maybe regulation, temper or distort human development. If you take China, in China you cannot use WhatsApp, you cannot use Facebook. Is it good for them? Is there human rights abuse? I don't know. But as we progress, we may think about how do we re-engineer our life to be fit with the new way of doing things now. How do we do that? Does implementation of IPPIS in Nigeria reduce corruption? Does implementation of bank verification number reduce corruption? Does implementation of electronic voters register in the last election reduce rigging, vote buying, and the rest? Does card reader implementation reduce the number of court cases we have? I think it's a question that we may ask as we progress. Yes, government, private organizations, civil society organizations, non-governmental and international governmental organizations are putting ICT tools to aid development. The question is still persists. How, to what extent these tools support human development? So this is just a bit about what we plan to do for this course. So please take time, go through this document, review, explore. If you have any question, don't feel shy, email us. We are here to support you 24/7. So I'm going to stop looking at this document now. Abdul, I think they all have this document, right? If I would advise, you can put this document into their Telegram group. So it's sent already. So, as I said, this is not lecture. It's just interactive section. And I'm going to move to my next document. So I have posted many documents to you. If you go to your learning platform, we have almost 9 PowerPoint slides posted for you. So I'm not developing any PowerPoint for you. I'm not developing any content. We are leveraging global content. So I will advise, maybe Abdul, what we need to do is we can download all the documents, turn them into PDF, and put it up into the WhatsApp group. That will likely support many of them. I think 3 or 4 students emailed me to say that they cannot open PowerPoint. They cannot open the file. So we may likely put everything into a PDF. So if you go through the PowerPoint slides adopted from Richard Hicks' ICT4D class. So Richard Hicks is a leading authority in this field. And I believe I cannot develop content as good as what he developed. And before we start this class, I emailed him to say, can you share with me your up-to-date or the most recent document or outline of ICT4D? And he generously sent me a lot of material. So we are leveraging these tools. So the first PowerPoint we have is just telling you about what ICT is. And to be honest with you, I stands for what? For information. And how do you get information? Information comes as a result of heavy data processing. If you process data, for example, for some of our participants that are going through JAM examination very soon, you go to the bank, you pay money, you go to the JAM registration center, they ask you about your bank verification number, you put your BBN, they verify you are the one, they enroll you to the courses that you need to go through the examination, and now you are waiting for your examination. And I think they emailed you yesterday that you can now generate your examination card. And that's what you will use to go through so all these are data collection and processing processes. If you don't have the examination card on exam day, you're already out. Then now Nigeria have a very solid integration. JAM and NYSC are linked together. If you finish your JAM, you are lucky you got admission, you go to the university, you graduate. The next thing is National Youth Service. You cannot do NYSC if you didn't go through JAM process. I know before, we have machineries that you can pay and they can do your JAM. If you do that, you run into trouble now, because when you go to NYSC camp, the first thing they will do for you is you thumb print. When you thumb print, it automatically verify the thumbprint you enroll with when you register for the JAM. And I think as they progress, they may even use face recognition, because it's more easier than the thumbprint in terms of access and simplicity. So you could see how data is being used and supported to give you information. But we're not talking about information now. We're talking about knowledge economy. So knowledge is basically information that has been processed to some extent. And I've said this last week to my student in my class that Nigeria don't need to even worry about going to farming or going to oil and gas exploration. The Financial Times, in 2021, they put a prediction that Nigeria could generate 38 billion naira if we can really move fast into data and data economy. 38 billion, I think much bigger than our foreign reserve deposit. And we have seen how smaller countries like Netherlands, about 3 months ago, we invited the ambassador of Netherlands in Nigeria, and he came here and he gave us a talk. And the figure he put together for us is really crazy. Netherlands, very small country, very small population, but they are the major exporter of agri produce in the world because they leverage mechanization and digitalization. So we're in the era of knowledge. Earlier on, I talked about flooding. Many countries stop flooding. Many countries even distort the rainfall. If there is prediction it will rain, and if it rains, it will flood, they can tamper with the rain system or the water flow system. They are using AI to simplify most of our processes, human processes. So the I, as I said, stands for information, and information is a processed data. When you process data, it's not even enough now to make money or to take informed decision. You have to subject that data into a further analytics. When you have further analytics of your data, then you can have trend, you can have patterns. And that can give you maybe to some extent beyond just the descriptive analytics. You could even have diagnostic. Based on the data, then you say, oh, you have to do this and do that. In precision farming, that's what we basically have. Based on the weather, the temperature, the humidity, and whatever, it will manage or coordinate or direct the irrigation system to pump water more or to pump water less. And it will look at the possibility of adding nutrient into the water to stabilize and regulate. So a lot of issues, even human development, even drug discovery, even marketing and sales now. Most of the airline, hotels, businesses are now managing their operations based on the data that they have. If I run a coffee shop and I'm leveraging Google Map data, when people begin to search my coffee shop, then that means I have to begin to prepare more. I have to hire more coffee makers. I have to hire service. So a lot of issues now. Most of us now rely on Google Map. I don't go out of my house or out of my office until when I go through Google Map to see if the road is freer. I don't want to go and spend 1.5 hours going through the traffic jam. I could have stayed and used that 1 hour to work in my office, then wait, save fuel, and save energy. So this information now translates into knowledge. But, you know, AI is here with us. It's not even about knowledge. Acquiring knowledge is very easy. You don't need to go to school to acquire knowledge. You could acquire knowledge anywhere, irrespective of your ethnicity or your religious or your social look, whatever. Because these digital tools don't discriminate. So acquiring knowledge and learning something is much easier now because of digital tools. So we are in the decision economy. And I've always used to do this for my students that are physical with me. You have data, then you have information, then you have knowledge, then you have decision. Now it's time for you to take decision because you have data. If I go to Google Map and the usual time for me to go to home is 20 minutes, now it shows 45 minutes. So it's for me to take decision and stay back in the office and work. Even though I'm not getting overtime, but I will save my car from consuming more petrol or more gas. And at the same time, I'm saving myself from stress of driving all through that hour. And I may even save myself from maybe tips. Maybe as we are going through the traffic jam, they can wind my glass down and snatch my phone, which in a normal time, if I'm driving, so a lot of opportunity there. So please go through this PowerPoint, get the basic understanding of what ICT4D is. And the second part of the ICT4D is communication. And when I say communications, I mean digital communication, physical communication, analog communication, sign language, any means of communication. Because if you have data, you have information, you have knowledge, you must be able to communicate this through the communication process or communication pathway. And you cannot have information if you didn't go through the communication system. Because network systems are basically a communication system. So go through this and get to know more. But the connection part here is the 4D. Are we really using these tools for development? If it is yes, to what extent? What if we didn't put computer for children in the school? Will that support them to learn better or to learn maybe lower? If government didn't digitalize their examination process or their recruitment process, will there be balance? If government is running manual recruitment where villagers or people in the hard-to-reach area can go to the local government office, pick a form and fill a return, and wait until information is being passed to them, got job. But if you put everything online and they're in the remote area where they have no access to network, they have no access to information, and they were cut off the recruitment process, does that support development? So in reality, ICT must be sustainable. Whatever ICT intervention you're looking at, it must be sustainable to the extent that ICT don't destroy nature, it don't destroy the already established value system, At the same time, these ICT tools are resilient in the event of any shock or any hacking. Recently, we had issue of National Identity Management Database being compromised. Very big debate. This morning I was going through Google News, and I noticed that from what I see, I'm not sure if it is true or not, that the NIMC have started reducing the privileges they give the identity vendors. So if you have ICT, if it is sustainable, that's not the end of the game. It must be resilient to the extent that in the event of any hacking or any compromise, the system must be able to jump back to normal, to the previous consistent state before the incidents. Then, beyond being resilient, it must be inclusive. No one left over. No one left over. Everyone, woman, man, children, poor, rich, people with special need, we must provide opportunity for them to leverage this tool. Educated, not educated, less educated. So the ICT tools must be really something that carry everyone along. I think I've talked about the foundation of ICT4D. In this lecture, if you go through the PowerPoint and the video, it talks about what are the foundational pillars of ICT4D. I think I've mentioned some of them earlier, but I'm not going to really focus on what Hicks said in the book. I have my own thinking of what the foundational infrastructure is for ICT4D. For me, I see power as number one. I see computing platform as number two. I see network as number three. Because before network, people are processing data in silo. Now you have network where you have supercomputers. You have distributed computing. You have embedded system. Right? Then when you have computing system, the most important part is the human literacy or digital literacy or their ability to exploit these tools very well. And I always tell this story all the time. Your access to digital tool doesn't really clearly show to you that you can derive value from the tools. This is an area where I do research, and we have really derived a lot of evidence from the research that access to digital technology doesn't just automatically autopilot people to prosperity if care is not being put together. And that's why I like Richard Hicks' work of design reality gap. In his work, he identified 7 dimensions of gap that we have to fill. So you have the information, whatever tools you are putting together, the information must be very visible. The technology must well be evaluated in terms of feasibility studies, the technical part of it. Is there any danger or harm? Then the processes, they must be very clear. I keep talking about this SOP, Standard Operating Procedure. Then if you talk about the management of the system, there must be a clear management processes around that. Then the organization, how do you organize the information into a more fashionable, more structured, more process-driven? And this is something that I think we need to work hard as we progress, as we begin to digitalize in Nigeria. Almost all of us want to sign paper. So if you digitalize, if, for example, I give this case study all the time in my office. We digitalize leave system earlier on, and my boss said, Rislan, do you mean you can apply for leave without my knowledge? The computer system will give you leave. I said, yes, sir. He said, no. When you are going for leave, you can apply online, but I need to have understanding of who will do your job. Some people may not necessarily need to be brought to my table, but someone like you need to be in my knowledge. So which ordinarily, our initial thinking of the leave system is you go online, you apply. When you apply, your leaving colleague will have a message about your leave. If you approve, if he approve or she approve, then automatically you take your leave. You don't need to go and see your bosses. So, but that have a lot of implication. So, if you are a digitalizing system, you have to look at the system. And I think in reality, from one of the research we did, why ICT system in Nigeria or in developing countries don't deliver value, because we don't want to go away from man, no man. I remember I first get this word from a colleague, Dr. Salihu Desuki, who is now, I think, the special advisor to the president on ICT policy. I'm going to invite him, maybe at a later stage, to do something for us in this class. You know, why most of the ICT projects fail in developing countries? Because of man, no man. Let's assume, for example, my wife is doing this course with you. If she fails exams because it's online, or she failed to turn on her assignment, there is no way I can give her a mark. So would I allow my wife to be embarrassed? I think that is the question we need to ask. I'm the project leader of this program, but I cannot add data. Whatever I want the system to support, it have to go through processes. So I think the human ability to go away from the usual is a key. But at the same time, how do we change our culture, this culture change? How do we re-engineer our processes? If you have to take 9 days to do process, if you automate, it must happen now. And I've shared this case study many times. In UAE, I think it takes them about 146 days to procure something for government. They say, this is madness, we don't want this anymore. And now it happens within second or hour, if I can remember. I want to buy free, and based on their financial proposal and the model. So if you take the foundation of ICT4D, number 1 is the power, number 2, the computing, the network, the human infrastructure, the data. Then how do you implement ICT4D? ICT4D is not just about buying computer, it's not about putting router, it's not about just putting internet. It's about understanding the problem and ability to set key performance indicators to say that now we have this. Now we need to see this change. I always tell this story in our university where we work. Whenever I put the proposal for ICT, because they are very heavy, they are big, ICT costs money. My boy used to say, Ruslan, if I didn't spend this money, what will happen? And then if you convince me that I have to spend this money, what am I going to drive from this? So, and there is so many pathways, so many processes where you could implement ICTs. Then ICT and economic growth. I don't like just economic growth. I like ICT and social growth. I think I have really talked much around that. If you sleep 7 hours a day, non-stop, before the emergence of mobile phone, now you bought a smartphone, and you only sleep 2-3 hours a day, I think that is a serious danger. Because most of us, continuously, our phone keeps ringing, non-stop. At a later time, you need to put that phone in a do not disturb or in a silent mode. Because you are not running a call center that people will call you and order for ice cream or pizza or amala. So how do you use this tool? I think it's clearly left to you to decide how to use this. If you go to banks, you can use bank network and access social media and site. Because you have to count money, you have to give money, you have to verify check, you have to verify identity. But if you're working in a bank, as a marketing officer, then you need to have access to social media tools. I have no problem with that. If I have to hire you as a programmer, and I go to your Facebook and I discover that you have 5,000 friends, and you post like 70 content daily or weekly, I may not hire you because you may not have that concentration to work. But if I'm going to hire you as a resource mobilizer or as a public or engagement outreach, and you are not visible in Google's platform, you are not visible in LinkedIn or in Facebook, I cannot hire you because I don't see you doing the job. So we need to have that alignment. Then how does ICT support poverty alleviation and improve the livelihoods of a family? If your wife have access to Google tool, she could use Google tool to search the best meal to cook for the children. When there is inflation, if you eat protein and milk every day, and now you cannot afford that, if your wife have access to these digital tools, she could search for alternative protein or alternative calcium that we could use to supplement the family. If your wife have access to mobile phone, or you have access to digital tools, you could use these tools to support your student to do extra lesson in the class. I give you an example. Federal government through UNICEF and GPE and the big funding from the federal government account build a digital learning platform where children and learners can access digital content for free without having to go through data purchases, data free. So if your family or your children have access to this tool, they could accelerate their learning process, and that could reduce the learning poverty, because learning poverty is a big issue now. And I tell this even last week in a conference. Myself, where I came from, learning poverty is high. Only about 1% of youngsters and children that are going to school achieve a minimum proficiency level in language, arithmetics, reading, numeracy, and the rest of the baseline skills, only 1%. And the debate now is, with the school that we have, with the quality of teachers that we have, how can we change this momentum? And even yesterday, when I had a meeting with some colleagues, I showed to my colleagues that China, as at 1990, access to higher education, when I say higher education, I mean university, poly, college of education, or any institution above secondary school. In China, as at 1990, if I can remember, is 5%. But now it's about 56%. So you could see China, within about 30 years, they were able to scale up access to higher education. You know, from 5% to 56% within 30 years. But not only increasing access, but at the same time, they increase the quality of the education they are given. If you look at the Chinese indicators in every aspect, they are flying high. Then the relevance of their education, because we leverage almost every Chinese tool. Even though they are not research-intensive system or country, they are production-intensive country, because their productivity in the research ecosystem is very lean. But if you look at Nigeria, we have less than 10% access to higher education. So it's a big issue. How do we use this tool to develop mass learning platform? Open University, they are just our neighbors. They have about, I think about 1 million enrolled students, but they have about 550,000 active students. It's massive. So how do we use digital tools, digital platform, to accelerate digital learning, to accelerate poverty reduction, to incentivize process of doing things? So I think if you go through this link and also you do a simple Google search on the internet, you should be able to have something around that. Then if you talk about e-governance, what is e-governance? It's not e-government. E-government is beyond e-governance. It's a super part of government process. How do we improve e-governance? For me, I was asked this question. If you talk about what is e-governance, I see e-governance as a way of improving transparency, accountability, openness, and more engaging government, where citizens are involved in every part of government process. That have to do with budget input. Citizens are involved, are asked about what do they want to be captured in the budget. We had the issue recently of budget padding at the National Assembly. It's a joke for us to be talking about padding. If we have inclusive governance, we have digital tools with a simple survey, not even using digital survey, but go to the village and say, what do you want? What can we do for you? What we have for you last year, is it supporting human development? I think we can prioritize things. We can begin to have citizens being involved in the central governance process. We could begin to even value or evaluate how happy are they with our services. If you go to, I mean, I always like talking about UAE, United Arab Emirates, Dubai, I mean, in particular. They are very ambitious. They have Ministry of Happiness. And they even have Ministry of Artificial Intelligence. They have Minister of AI. And they even have Ministry of Possibility. Ministry of Possibility. Though they don't have a Minister of Possibility, but the portfolio is governed by the key ministers. And the reality is just for them to improve procurement. And the major reason behind UAE taking AI and putting Ministry of Possibility is to improve citizens' fulfillment. Part of what you discover is the Emiratis are not fulfilled. They are not crossing the boundary. They are not getting top in everything they do. Now they want to change that. So how do we do that? How do we support, how can government begin to, and to be honest with you, it's not just about computer, hardware, submarine cable, it's about re-engineering the way government operates. And I have to confess to you, Nigeria have done very well in terms of digital governance. I was privileged to lead a research that looked at about 4 major digital transformation for Nigeria. The bank verification number is a big deal. The IPPIS is a big deal. The Integrated Financial Management Information System is a big deal. And the digitalization of education is a big deal. So how can government begin to be more responsive? By leveraging digital tools to re-engineer the way they do things. So in Section 8, where we have ICT and environmental sustainability, I have said this to you earlier, that climate change is a big issue, is a major factor militating the world now. How do we use climate science? How do we use ICT tools to mitigate? For me, I don't like this mitigation because we are not ready for mitigating this climate change. But how can we use this tool to be adaptable? I like the word climate adaptability. And I think that's what most of the developing countries are trying to move on now. So with digital tools, you can measure the air quality, the water quality, the noise pollution, and the rest. And you could use that to fast-track process of implementing solutions that could remediate action of a climate change. And the reality is climate must go into some certain level of changes if you go through industrialization, because industries pollute. Toxic waste, the temperature is getting too extreme in many countries. Getting extreme in terms of hot, I think recently in Abuja we have 40 degrees. It's unusual. In some part of Nigeria you have 43. It's unusual. So how do you use digital tools to collect information about data, real data, to support climate adaptation, not mitigation? Because it's a reality. We cannot mitigate climate action now. But how do we mitigate? Many countries are very conscious about this. If you go to the Scandinavian countries, they are very committed about easing out cars that use diesel and petrol, that use hydrocarbons. They are now moving into a cleaner environment. Carbon credit. How do we mitigate this? Through ICT tools. So if you have a proper measurement tools to know even how many cars are coming to Nigeria. We had issue of fuel subsidy. We don't even know how much fuel we have in Nigeria or how many cars do we have in Nigeria because we don't have data. And as I keep talking to my students all the time, data is essential in a modern society. You can't develop as a society if you don't have data. And China is progressing, is shining because they are very data-intensive economy. At every point, Chinese government is collecting, is harvesting data. And they have this data sovereignty. And that's why they say, we don't want to use Facebook, we don't want to use Google, we have our own tool. Because if you have your own data, then you now begin to use your tools to mitigate. China is a manufacturing zone. even during COVID-19. As Trump said, COVID is their disease, but because they use data, they use mapping system, they use movement tracking and the rest, they didn't got tottered by COVID-19 because they see data as a major tool for development. And as we progress, I'll talk about data for development, D4D, because you cannot digitally transform if you don't have data. And that's why even in Nigeria, you see, Nigerian government is very committed about even identity. Even in this program, we said to ourselves, we cannot admit unknown students. And you all have to go through verification of your NIN. And we discovered that many of you gave us fake NIN number. So you can study years and have the knowledge, but we cannot satisfy you if you have a fake NIN. So as it is now in Nigeria, we have about 126 million NIN number. So about half of our population have no identity. And that's why we may still keep going through insecurity, insurgency, vandalism, sabotage. And that's why someone can be kidnapped, and the bandit or whoever you call them can negotiate with a SIM card that is not registered. And you can even go and pay ransom on track, on challenge, because we don't take data very serious. That cannot happen elsewhere. Then, if you have time, deep dive into the future of ICT4D. The future of ICT4D is looking very sexy, but it has its own implication. So I'm going to stop here to breathe out. So we have very, very intensive program for us to do. I don't have the time, and it's not even nice for me to go through every course a bit, but I'm able to take you through the connection between all the three. So beyond just the PowerPoint, we also have the video. I think I also share this link. If you go through this video, I think there are about 15 video links in the playlist of ICT, and they are very easy to read. I think practically the longer video that we have is about 4.29 minutes. So they are very easy to watch, and they are just direct, just direct, not really too heavy. So, but in my in my learning management software, I made some suggestion. The flow of the video that I want you to read. I think I suggested you start by watching the final ICT4D, and you go on and on and on. So watch the video. Also in my classroom, I have a link that tells or that guide you on where to go further. I think I have NADA website. I have few other websites that I want you to click and open and explore what they have in the content. I also have some supplementary material. I'm going to add more as we progress. And at the same time, I have the assessment section. As it is now, I have given 4 assessments, which I think today you have to submit. I think tomorrow you have to submit 1. That contributes to 5 marks. Then I think on the 2nd, I have another one. On the 6th, you have another one for you. Then I have major assessment. And I have seen many of you have started dropping their assignment. So I'm going to stop here. And I believe in the next few minutes, we can have the video. Abdul, I think, is there opportunity for question and answers? Maybe if there is any question put together by the participant, Abdul. Do you have any question for them?
Well, I think most of the questions asked were, how can I get the document, which we basically share it on the group.
Yes.
So these are part of the questions the students were asking. And some just say that this is very good lectures, and they advise that this can be hosted in their state as physical classes. But they see it as an area whereby a lot of people learn a lot from it. And I think most of the students, some are matching of attendance. We already have a system for that. So
Yeah.
you don't have to worry.
Yeah, I think the attendance, as far as you log in, we know who you are, and we know how many minutes you spend with us. I think we will take this attendance very serious, and also the video that we share, we hope that can also be, I mean, we are tracking the video. And please feel free, engage by Telegram. I think tomorrow, for tomorrow's section, we may not necessarily do lecture, or maybe something like that. We can have interactive section where we could, engage them to practically maybe ask questions and interact. And I think that would be much better. I'm going to create a Google form, and I'm going to share with them. If they have anything they want to ask, we can have it. Then I'm going to do a video meeting, maybe 1 hour. Then I can share with them. Because as I said, we may not really go through every detail of content that we have with them, but we should be happy to support them. Thank you. Any further question? Okay, so thank you very much, and looking forward to engage more online. But please always email if you have anything to share, but always email something very, very much more serious. How many people do we have online?
We have
2,000. So this is incredible number. If you look at the time, today is Friday. Majority are going for mosques, and it's Easter. Some are celebrating Easter, and some are even having issue with the connectivity and power. While we are doing this class, I think we lost power 2 times. Yeah, so please feel free and learn, and please go through the content, and if there is anything you want us to help, we'll be happy to support. I also have this my PowerPoint that I developed. This is something that I I've been improving. So, but I basically say a lot of this, but I'm going to talk more around this maybe tomorrow. The might of ICT4D, which is a big issue. And I also like to ask this question. Maybe I will ask the participant. I'm going to post this in the classroom. Maybe I want the student to identify the challenge militating the world, and maybe identify challenges that are currently militating Nigeria as a nation, and how can we use this ICT tool to stop this menace. And along the way, if there is any way the participant, I would love to see the AC of the participant, if possible. And if there is any other thing we can ask. I think we have like an hour, right? Yeah. So thank you very much all, and I wish you all the best. And we hope we can have a meaningful engagement with you as we progress. Thank you.